Morse, and I want to welcome you to the Startup of Startups. This session is sponsored by the Economy of Communion, which you will hear more about, and the Youth Center for a United World, Youth Center for North America. The Youth Center aims at providing opportunities for young people to come together and build community, inspiring and mobilizing them to live for a more united world.
Sorry. And as co-director with Mike Morse of YCNA, we're so pleased to welcome everyone. And most especially, we want to express our gratitude for this panel of experts that will be sharing with us their experiences, with the hopes that at the end of this hour, we could create networks and start thinking about perhaps building new types of businesses that can work towards a more inclusive economy. So to you.
And now we welcome Loretta, who will be the MC for our session this evening. Thank you.
So my name is Loretta Rauschuber, and I'm in Los Angeles. For some of you, that's on the other side of the country. And as Chiara Luce and Mike were pointing out, we prepared this event together with the Youth Center. And this year is a special year for the Economy of Communion because it's our 30th anniversary. And so I just wanted to begin by just saying a little bit about the Economy of Communion. It's an international economic and social movement. It was launched in May 1991 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, initially as a means of eradicating poverty within the Focolare movement. Since then, it has spread beyond the movement and involves citizens, workers, business owners, scholars, students, organizations, and people in need with a purpose to contribute to build a more just, inclusive, and sustainable economy. In these 30 years, the EOC has matured and spread throughout the world, involving over 1,000 small and medium-sized for-profit and non-for-profit businesses, cooperatives, and associations in over 50 countries around the world. It may be hard to believe, but even during a worldwide pandemic and with the coronavirus surging around our country, Americans started millions more small businesses in 2020. Nearly 4.5 million business applications were filed in 2020, the highest number on record, and an increase of 24% from the prior year. What's important to understand here is that our current crisis is not a crisis based on a negative economic shock, but rather a public health crisis. Last year saw a jump in businesses that are likely employers. This is a category that includes manufacturing, restaurants, and stores. Americans filed 200,000 more of these kinds of applications in 2020 than the year before. That's a 15% jump. Applications from these types of new businesses increased as the year went on. This is an important moment for startups, and we have 5 entrepreneurs with us today that will help us navigate through some of the questions most often asked. It's my pleasure to begin by introducing John Mundell. John is President and CEO of Mundell & Associations, an environmental and earth science consulting firm located in Indianapolis. This year marks his and his wife, Julie's, 25th anniversary since their startup in 1995 as part of the Economy of Communion network of companies. So John, I'm going to start with a question for you, just to get the ball rolling. Why in the world would someone want to start a business? And how do you know, like if you want to start a business, how do you know that you're able to get something started?
Thanks, Loretta. Hi, everyone. Well, you start off with the toughest question, but the most important one. why do this? Why start a business? Well, for me, it's really part of this idea of responding to some kind of gut feeling or calling to do so. Something inside of you starts to work. It works in your gut. It starts to invade your mind and your being, and at some point, you begin thinking about it. And so it's this calling that starts to kind of emerge when you think about the possibility of doing something like this. You know that saying, your vocation in life is where your greatest joy meets the world's greatest need. That's kind of what happened to me with the Economy of Communion, because I totally bought into the vision of this kind of new kind of approach, where we're trying to transform the world economy to end poverty. That's what sold me on this. Chiara Lubich, 30 years ago, and a group of Brazilians came up with this idea of using business as a means to create change and to build positive community relationships, and also to enhance the lives of those in need. So one is, responding to a calling. My wife and I, Julie, when we heard this idea, we thought, wow, this is so neat. This is so needed. Who's going to do this? At first, we didn't recognize it in ourselves, but we began to realize over time that this is something maybe we could respond to and we could do. So for me, I started an environmental company because it was one of my loves in life, the earth and the environment, combined with solving poverty. Why wouldn't I want to do that? So I thought that's one thing for me, is this calling and this buying into what you want to do. And so for example, you might want to ask yourself, what gives you joy? What would give you joy, or what gives meaning to your life? And I think if starting a business, or the possibility of business, is that answer to that, that may be a good reason. You ask the other reason, how do you know you should start a business? Well, you should have some kind of, I think of this as a three-legged stool. Kind of like if you sit on a three-legged stool, you're stable, but if you don't have all three legs, you can kind of tip over, So one is, we talked about already, the passion, the vocation, the calling. You gotta wanna. And if you don't have that kind of drive and excitement, that's not going to be good. Second thing is just the experience or the education in whatever you're going to do. Whether you have knowledge of the particular business through education or through experience, that should give you another leg of the stool. You have to answer the question of, what are you going to do and how are you going to do it? And yet you should have knowledge about that. And so that experience and education should be part of that kind of check mark. Do I have what it takes to start a business? And the third thing is resources. It takes money sometimes to start a business, whether it's your own money or your friend's money or someone who wants to invest in your business. So, financial resources, relationships, they could be with family and friends, support system, others who will help you do this and help carry out various tasks. And most of all, too, your family support, whatever that is. Are they ready to take on this adventure? Because it will be an adventure. So that's real quick on the why and should you. So yeah.
Wow, that's very nice. It's I really love what you're saying about the vision of an economy to end poverty. That's something that attracts me too. And now we're going to go to Paul Katipan. And again, these are questions that we pulled together that were just most often asked. And we're going to have a moment in the program where we just open up, and we want you also to take note. If you have any questions about what we're talking about right now, just jot them down, because we're going to have a whole moment where we just spontaneously answer any of your questions. And but we're going to move on now to Paul Katipan. He is the president and CEO at NetPro Communications, a security system integration company based in New York City, providing CCTV surveillance, intrusion detection, and network security solutions to the major transportation companies such as the New York City Subway, Metro North, Long Island Railroad, and Amtrak. So Paul, our question to you is, what does it take to start a business?
All right. I think John mentioned a few things, but starting a business is, I think it's, you need that entrepreneurial spirit. It takes guts. You need courage. John talked about passion, motivation, but you need also business savvy, a lot of planning. You need to have also teamwork and leadership skills and luck. Also, you need that. So you will say, well, I already have this. Okay, so how do I start, or what does it take to really start a business? So in business schools, they teach you about business plan, but I really like this other thing that we call the business model canvas. So let me just go in. I'm just going to give you like a 2-minute version of it. Then you could go and Google if you want to start your business. There's a lot of resources there that talks about this, but let me just give you a quick preview of it. So let me share my screen. Share. Okay. And let's see, where's my preview? Okay, do you see the business model canvas? Okay. So basically there are nine categories in here. And what you want to look at first and foremost is the value proposition. What is the thing that you're going to provide that you could do better than the others, that you would provide it with the most cost efficient, and that you like doing or providing? So this is the value proposition of whether it's a product you're providing or a service. Then here on the right side is, to me, it's like what's going to bring in revenue, what's going to bring in money. And then on the left side, it's what's going to cost you money. So in business, you always have the plus and the minus. Like in the accounting, you have the ledger plus and minus that creates your revenue and what's going to cost to build a business. So in here, this customer here is like, who are your customers? You have to define who will be using your product or service. What kind of relationship do they want from you? How do you create that relationship with them? So those are what the revenues will come from. And here on the left side is your internal structure, the things that will also cost you, the key activities. What is it that you're going to be doing mainly? If your service, like for me, I provide networking, so I need engineers, design in here, key activities. Who are my key resources? My key resources are my engineers and also the bank, because I need to provide invoices. Who are my key partnerships? These are my vendors, my suppliers, and other engineering firms. And the bottom line is, of course, how much would that cost to provide that goods or services? Okay, so let's just do this for a quick example. So Loretta said that there's a lot of pandemic startups that created from this. 2 weeks ago, I was at home because someone was infected with COVID, so I had to stay home. And let's say you want to start a business to provide food or groceries for those people that are home because of COVID. So let's call this business groceries for your staycation. So I call it GFS. So again, that's what's my value proposition, is that I want to provide groceries for people who are homebound because of the COVID, even though they're not sick, but they have to self-isolate themselves. So that's my goal. That's my value proposition. Who are my customers? Those people that are sick with COVID and those people that are at home with them, that they have to stay home. So those are my customer. What's my relationship to them is that I have to call them or talk to them or see what their needs are. What's the channel? How do I get to them? Maybe phone call, maybe text, website, or maybe eventually apps that they could send me their needs. What's my key activity will be, how do I provide those groceries to them? Who are my resources? Those will be the people that will be delivering the groceries to them. And my partnerships would be the grocery stores. Cost structure, what's the most cost to me? How will this cost? So the fact that I'm taking time to go to the grocery to get those groceries, the phone calls that I'll be making, the transportation to transport those groceries to my customers. And finally, my revenue stream. How would I cost? How would once I know my costs, then I could also know my revenue, how much I should be charging. And it's not only maybe that it's the customers that I'll get my revenue. Maybe I could also talk to the supermarkets that they would give me also some cut if I bring them a lot of customers. So that quickly is what it would take to start a business, to put this together and to understand, okay, I have these elements, and then now let's start breaking into moving ahead then it gives you a better idea of how you're going to provide your goods or services. So back to you, Loretta. Again, these are just quick things, and you could just ask us questions later, or there'll be other resources. Thank you.
Okay, wow, that is very interesting, especially this business model canvas. Paul, would you be able, I don't know if this is possible, would you be able to put a link or something in the chat for everyone about that?
Yes.
Or,
So
okay,
Paul,
eventually.
yeah, there should be a chat. On the chat, you'll see 3
links.
Google links of videos, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10-minute length that will give you more explanation on this. So look at your chat, it will be there.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And so next we have Nick Sana. And Nick is a serial entrepreneur and currently the president and CEO of RiskLens, a 100-person cybersecurity software company based in Reston, Virginia. Nick, our question for you: did you just follow your passion by starting a business, or is there a little bit more to it, or where did you start from?
Oh, thank you, Loretta, and hi, everyone. I think both Paul and John talked about the importance of being passionate about what you do. But actually, at the beginning of my career, I've been now a serial entrepreneur. I ran multiple businesses and developed them. But at the beginning of my career, after graduating, I actually hated business people. I wanted to change the world. And I thought, as like, I don't want to become that greedy person. You know, I had this probably also erroneous image of many people going into business just to make money, just to be in it for themselves. And I wanted to change the world. And my outlook, you know, on business changed when I met some people of the economy of communion, and who saw, you know, building businesses as a way to actually change the world by providing jobs, meeting needs of people that have kind of unmet needs, by using some of the profits to help, you know, the community. And for me, it's like there was like a revolution, you know. And so after developing some skills, you know, in my first job, so I was not an entrepreneur from the get-go. I was hired, you know, by an American software company. This was in Europe at that time. And they gave me a chance to basically run their European operations, almost like a business in a business, and then helped me hone my skills. And so, and that was important, because what John said is like one of the 3 pieces of the stool is to build, is to build competence, so that you actually can rely on that as a foundation for running the operation. And I realized that I actually liked, I saw sales and marketing and engaging customers as a way to meeting people's needs. I just need to put myself in their shoes, you know, provide a need in an original and unique way that was really beneficial for the customer. Tell my employee I'm not pushing the stuff that doesn't provide any value. I'm going to only push what makes sense. And somehow, you know, that became for me second nature, and it became very successful to the point where they asked me to run a business. And I became an entrepreneur, you know, and basically some investors came to me and said, listen, we believe you have some skills, you know, can you come up with a business plan? We may happy to support you. And so, and I put together a business plan that had some semblance to the business model canvas. What I like about the business model canvas is that it puts a minimum foundation of what it takes. Need to think through the motions of what it takes to build a business. Not just in terms of numbers. As you can see there, what is my unique value proposition? How do I engage with the customers? As he said, how am I going to get the job done in producing my products and services? And now, how do I square, the cost with my pricing? And for me, there was a absolutely fun exercise. It was like a puzzle. And I love that challenge. If I can just figure out the pieces of the puzzle, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to be able to, can I say, meet a need like nobody else. We're going to be able to make money, and I can, and then even help people with the extra profits. This is going to be amazing. I was so excited. So for me, it became almost like a game, and some people often ask me, you've been running, I ran several companies, ask me, but are you stressed out being the CEO of a company or running a company, et cetera? I was like, no, I think it's my calling. I just love the puzzle piece of running a business or building a business. If it wasn't my calling and I was stressed out every day and lose my livelihood in the process, it's probably not a good idea to get into it. And life will test you very early on, if this is for you. So, and you don't know until you get there, and so I think, you gotta have a lot of determination, persistence, and making sure that the puzzle can be put in place. They can build a beautiful puzzle, but then also you need to validate that your product actually meets a need. And the market will tell you very quickly if they're willing to give you money in exchange of services, etc. And whether you engage them in the right way, with your pricing is right, etc. There's going to be a lot of adaptation, a lot of change. Success will be iterative. Every day you're going to improve your business a little bit more up to the point where things started to click. And for me, that I turned into a game, and that became my passion. Not only solving a problem with a product in an original way, but also the process of running a business is better be a passion. Or if you're the inventor, the creative person, etc., at some point you may need to surround yourself with somebody who is good at running the operations of the business. It may not be you, the operator. It may be somebody else who becomes your partner. You got to factor in as well, because in many businesses I see that there's oftentimes different types of people. Usually a creative person, the person has the vision for the product, for the industry, how we can change this market, for the better. And then there may be the operators, and oftentimes it's the union between these characters that make amazing companies, And so recognize also what your skills are, and so. And be open to whatever circumstances will tell you. Again, I was a reluctant, business person. I hated business people. I now find myself being one, but I'm having a blast because I feel like we are producing products that help people, and the way we treat our customers, our people, internal and community around us, makes it a very worthwhile exercise. And I feel like I'm changing the world every day in that process.
Wow, that's beautiful. That, I never felt like I could sell anything at all. And when you say that sales is like an opportunity to meeting people and their needs, that is that's so different, a whole totally different outlook. Yeah, I would even be tempted to try to sell something. Yeah. Next we have John is it Hokema? John Hokema, sorry about that, John. And John is the president of John Hokema and Associates. John took his part-time business, which was established in 2004, and transformed it into a full-time business in 2009. John is a registered investment advisor and provides executive coaching and business consulting to small businesses. So John, our question for you is, when should you start a business? Like the timing, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you for the question, Loretta. And seems really appropriate since actually I'm not an RIA, but a lot of my clients are registered investment advisors and financial advisors. But in this field, you're always concerned about market timing if you're an amateur investor. And so in terms of the time to start a business, I'd say, you know what, market timing is never a good idea. It's better to invest slowly and steadily over time. And my colleagues have shared great advice about the things that go into your investment. The experience you have, being aware of the passion you have, and also making sure that you have a clear understanding of how you're going to build revenue and manage expenses in a way to achieve serving the people you feel called to serve. Well, let me tell you a bit about some of the transitions I've been through and I'll use the analogy of weather. You know, there are cold fronts and there are warm fronts, and when cold and warm fronts collide, you have a weather event, right? So it might be a gentle rain as the moisture in the air turns into rain, or it could be a cyclone, and it could be lightning and thunder. It could be very tumultuous. So you can never predict what a cold front and a warm front colliding are going to produce. But I do think that the analogy is there's an internal reality and there's an external reality. So when you think of timing, first thing you ought to do is take stock of the internal reality. Things like, what is your sense of calling? What is your passion for doing this particular thing? What difference do you want to make in the world? Those are the parts of your internal weather, so to speak, your internal calling. And then also, just to reflect back on my own situation, I can remember wanting to become a consultant fairly soon out of college. And I think that's crazy, right? I was a kid, I didn't know anything, but that seed of desire was there as a kid, a recent college graduate. And then I was involved in ministry and serving people to grow spiritually for over a decade. And then made a pivot into business. And what I found is, like John has mentioned, you've got to earn the right to have something to sell, right? And so when I was in business, I learned about sales and sales operations. I learned marketing. I pivoted into a company and did human resources and organizational development. And then found myself actually, for me, the cold front that hit was I went through a layoff in 2009 during the last Great Recession. And so needless to say, I wasn't sure which way was up. And then I remembered, oh, I wanted to start a business. What better time to start a business than at the bottom, right? You only have one direction to go, which is up. And so I started full-time 2009. And like many entrepreneurs, I had to figure out what I had to deliver to the market. So I thought, well, I have a degree in economics. I'm going to do something economics related. So first I tried insurance and selling insurance, not a good fit. Then I said, well, you know, personal financial advising is more like being an economist. So I started studying to become a certified financial advisor. But then I quickly found that what I really loved doing as I met other advisors was advising them and helping them improve their businesses. And then I thought, well, I don't know much about improving a business. Maybe I better hang out with people who do know that. And I actually became a facilitator for business owners trying to figure out how to run businesses, and had a whole curriculum that I delivered to them. And in the course of delivering it, I learned a lot about building businesses. And then I launched out on my own and began meeting with larger businesses that had multiple clients. And then one of my clients in the last 5 years was a multi-billion-dollar RIA, and I did basically leadership development work with them. And so over time, I was able to pivot and evolve my business based on both the internal sense of calling of, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a consultant, and realizing, oh my gosh, the thing I do uniquely and best in the world is advising other businesses. And in fact, my most recent pivot was the discovery of the economy of communion. And so I'm now one of you guys. So I am delighted to see the melding of my passion for spiritual growth with business growth in an arena where people get to really grow their sense of unity and care for one another and make transformative businesses that impact the world. So to me, really, this is about making sure that the internal and external weather conditions you're facing are matching your internal sense of calling with your particular environment, and figuring out, can I make money at this business? Can I serve people in the way I want to? And can I sort of outsource or basically depend on my community for the things I don't know? As a small aside, I don't know anything about accounting. So guess what? One of the first people I hired was an accountant to help with my business finances because I don't do that. But I love sales and marketing. And so that's what I do as I advise businesses. So hopefully that gives you some sense of how to know the timing is just keeping track of what's going on outside and what's going on inside in terms of your own passion and sense of calling.
You know, one thing very nice that you pointed out, John, was besides the timing is also just how flexibility opens up opportunity, like just that readiness to change, and change keeps you in the cycle. Yeah, very nice. So our next guest is Nellie Torres. Hi, Nellie. Nellie is the president and owner of Project Spam, a company specializing in the transit industry, offering products and services to infrastructure projects. Nellie has been operating Project Spam since 2003, and before that was involved in the project management and operations of transit and electrical contracts, including the construction of the new Yankee Stadium. Nellie, we were just wondering, like, can you effectively run a business purely based on the knowledge that you have? Let's say, for example, if you're the best baker in the world, can you just take that knowledge and immediately begin a business?
Oh, hi, thanks. I guess my answer to that would be yes and no. If you start, let's say, part-time, I think John mentioned you were a part-time business owner, like full-time. So yeah, if you are part-time baking and you have friends and family, and like my co-panelists have mentioned, you draw upon your support group and you sell to them, that'll be great. One thing that I found out, and I started my business on my own, is that it's really tough. And one of the things that I was really shocked about were all the hidden costs and hidden requirements that you don't really consider when you're starting a business. My passion happened to be at the time construction. So when I started this business, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be the best project manager and I'm going to get clients and run their projects. And I quickly found myself, well, all right, that means I need to have a place to work. Okay, there's rent. I have to do payroll. Oh, wait a minute. If I'm going to pay myself, I have to pay taxes. Okay, there's payroll taxes. What's FICA? Well, oh, I need insurance. I couldn't get a project until I had insurance. So there are so many things that are hidden that you don't know and that require a lot of research. One of the other things, and I fell into this pitfall, and I think it took me a very long time to get out of it. I prided myself on the ability that I researched all this stuff. So yeah, John, I learned how to do accounting, and I learned about insurance, and I learned about payroll, and I learned about all these other things. And I found myself not having the ability to actually go out and do what I loved and go out and run projects. I actually hired a project manager to go run the projects because I was so busy in the details of running this business. So, I've been trying to get past that and kind of use connections and use the, just recognize within myself that no, I may know a little bit about insurance, but I need an insurance broker. And yeah, we can do payroll in-house, and yeah, but this is stupid. We're spending a day a week on doing payroll. We should outsource it. So, draw upon the experts. You are not an expert at everything. And I try to be. And that can actually stunt your growth. We were before COVID, and we started with 2 people, this company, where before COVID, we were about to hire our 50th person. And I still, was involved with, okay, how much payroll does that take and how many taxes? And it's kind of ridiculous. So one of the things that I'm working on is actually getting back to what I love and hiring subject matter experts to be able to take on these things that, isn't what you love to do. So that's, thank you.
Yeah,
That's my
thank
advice.
you. Yeah, Nellie, those hidden costs and requirements, that's incredible. One thing that I think in almost anything, like for example, I'm an artist, and before I ever put the paint to the canvas, I've done even months of research. Like the research is when you talk about that, it helps you understand some of those hidden items before they get there. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. So what we've offered up until now is just a very general Q&A moment, and we wanted to close this moment because we're all living this common crisis with all of humanity, and the Focolare movement just recently concluded their every 6 years they have an assembly, and we just recently concluded, and we had the enormous blessing that Pope Francis addressed the assembly at the very end, and he also talked about this moment of crisis. And I just want to take something out of his talk just to conclude, because like we said at the very beginning, like startups, this is the time for startups, and it's because of the crisis we're living. And so these are Pope Francis' words, and he says, "I would like to propose to your consideration the importance of crises. You can't live without a crisis. Crises are blessings, even on a natural level. The crises of the child in growth to a ripe old age are all important, even in the life of institutions. There is always the temptation to turn the crisis into conflict. Conflict is ugly. It can get ugly. It can divide. But the crisis is an opportunity to grow. Every crisis is a call to new maturity. It is a time of the Spirit, which arouses the need to make an update without being discouraged in the face of human complexity and its contradictions. Today, much emphasis is made on the importance of resilience in the face of difficulties. That is, the ability to deal with them positively by taking opportunities from them. Every crisis is an opportunity to grow." So now we're just going to open up the floor, and it's your turn. Any questions you have, our panelists are going to stay here, and they'll take your questions. And so please don't be shy. And every question is probably something somebody else would like to ask and are just not able to or not going to. So go ahead and ask your questions. Anything that comes to your mind.
Someone had put a question about knowing those hidden costs that were kind of talked about, and I kind of posted a little bit of something there. Yeah, it's good to make a list of those and kind of get a kind of perspective and assign numbers to them as you begin your planning. You're going to know how much it's going to cost to, if you have to rent an office, or now you can work at home. There's certain information about what kind of taxes and retirement cost if you have a certain salary, because the government publishes those things. Your IT connection, if you're small, it's so there's a way of kind of knocking through those. So the first time they seem like they're daunting, but really after you talk to someone about health insurance or company, if you need professional liability insurance or other things, you'll get a handle on that. But you do have to work through them and start adding those up, because those will affect what you sell your products for and what you pay people, and what kind of charging, what kind of hourly rates you may charge if you're a service industry. So.
Yeah, I'm going to pile up on what John just said. I would say, if you consider starting a business, and complete your business canvas and looks amazing, but then get into building a business plan, but don't just keep it for yourself. find people who have started out of businesses or running out of business who have experience and submit it to them and ask them for feedback. You will learn a ton and welcome the feedback, especially the negative feedback of things that can go wrong. Actually, the most successful entrepreneurs are risk averse. People think entrepreneurs are crazy people that just mortgage their house and just start a business. No, most people do it out of the garage, out of the basement. They don't make a step bigger than their means, because, and in many cases, entrepreneurs, they are, I would say, prudently aggressive, and they're not crazy people, and so big, I think, improvement in chances of success. Build a business plan and to put it to the test with as many people as you can that have competence, and learn from every one of those exchanges. And by the way, we as Economy Communion are also happy to support, entrepreneurial kind of say endeavors. And we heard from Mike and Chiara Luce that some of you may contemplate starting a business, and we may be able to support to oversee one or two, such endeavors and support them in the process. Okay, so that's something that we do also as an association.
One thing that I wanted to bring up, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Actually, there's a lot of resources out there for startup businesses. One of them is SCORE, and SCORE has a bunch of retired professionals that you can get free advice. So if, like Nick said, if you create a business plan, they have people there that for free will look at it, critique it. And the SBA, Small Business Administration, also has a lot of free resources, including help with accounting and business plans. So there's also free resources out there.
There is a question from Megan in the chat. She says, basically, I'm going to read it here. I'm a baker, and with my coworker, we are working on buying out the owner of a small family-operated business where we work. Do you think that we need to have a background in business, such as a college degree, in order to take this on? A lot of very famous entrepreneurs didn't finish college. So no, having a college degree doesn't give you necessarily the skills and the right instincts to start a business. It gives you some tools that can be very useful, but those tools can be acquired also in different ways. It can be acquired by doing, by experience, if you have, learned in the business. And I would say, if you're planning to take on the business, try to find out from the owner, what are the aspects of the job that you're not mastering yet, and focus on those. What is it that you know already because you're part of the business already? And what is it that, they see as necessary for your future success, and develop those, or find help, in the business that complements your own skills. And so, having a college degree is not necessary, but having some foundational business skills and finding some courses and that don't require a college degree, there are many out there as well. Okay, so just ask around, and there's many resources out there, but college degree is not a necessity.
I'd like to piggyback on your comments, Nick, which are excellent. And the addition I'd like to make is, when it comes to acquiring a business from somebody else, of course, people selling often think they're far more valuable than they actually are. So definitely getting a third-party opinion on the value of the business itself is a good idea. And also just looking at various buyout opportunities, because there are ways of financially structuring it so that it is a win-win for both parties. So again, that's something else to consider, is the financial aspects of taking over a business.
Okay. I wanted to answer also Sherry's question on, obviously these are all short answers because it will require a lot more, but just to go over, she's asking the step-by-step process of starting a business, for example, LLC, registering your business, etc. So if you're ready to start a company, there's many ways of doing it. You could be a self-proprietor. This is the simplest way. Or you could be a partnership, what you call your LLC, or a bigger corporation, like a corporation, or a nonprofit. And now there's just a lot of the differences are the tax implication and the liabilities. Self-proprietor is that you're still very liable. It's very simple, but if something goes wrong and someone sues you, then also your property, whatever you own, will be part of that. Now, if you start a business and you want to make sure that the liabilities are reduced, then you could do LLC or limited liability companies. Those you will have to register to the state, and then they will give you your tax ID. So that corporation becomes its own corporation. It's not anymore tied to your social security number. You will have your own tax ID. You either could do that directly. You could go to your state and register, and they will give you that. Or there are many other companies there that will do that for you. In general, if you don't want to do any of those paperwork, it will cost you about $500, and other companies will do that for you. Or if you want to do that yourself, you will still have to pay filing fee, and it's about $200, $250. Again, those are the things that there's a lot of resources. We could help you here, the people here, or SBA, as Nelly said, or reach out to other people that have done this. But yes, do some research, and then once you're ready, reach out to people that knows it. But so again, it's about $250 if you want to do it yourself. It's about $500 if you want some company to do all those paperwork for you.
Yeah, I see a question from Julie saying, if you have a brilliant idea but don't have the means of financing, what sources are available out there, bank loans, etc. And I see John's response saying basically, you best, John, why don't you say in summary what you just wrote?
On which one, Nick? Sorry, I responded to a couple.
On Julie, on financing, business.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
You just responded, say, I suggest you run it for a while.
Oh, yeah. I would just recommend being extremely tight at the beginning and doing as much as you can and stretching yourself as much as you can. I did the work during the day, and I did the books at night and on weekends and invoiced for a while. And I don't recommend that forever, but you do kind of test out whether you're going to be successful for a few months before you add labor in, because once you make that commitment, it's always a little risk. So I would just recommend doing that, see how things are going. And then when you're so busy that it doesn't stop, then you add that person. You go, okay, I guess we're going to go. So be tight at the beginning, but work hard and do both. That's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, well, I second that. You don't want to take loans to fund losses. You want to, at some point, look at financing options to fund growth. There's a difference there, okay? So validate that your idea is working, that you are selling your initial products, even if they're not perfect, that somebody's willing to give you money in exchange. You have something a little going, that's worth financing, You don't want to just take a loan and incur big expenses just on an idea that is completely unproven. That's very, very risky. You may get lucky, but it's like, it's like gambling. And so I would not recommend, as John says, bootstrap as long as you can. And then when you have something going and you need funding to make it bigger, then it might be a good idea to looking for funding opportunities. And there's many out there. And by the way, the investors are the same way. They're going to ask you how many customers you have. How is it going? What is this money going to do? And those are good questions. These are not bad people. They want to make sure that your venture is successful. And so you also need to have clarity what the money will be for and what's the likelihood of, that venture to be successful. So you want to have tested this beforehand.
Mm-hmm. There's one other question about starting at the point when you're starting. And the question says, okay, so you have to have the knowledge to start the business, and it practically means, from what we're saying, that you have to manage and operate. You have to do what you're knowledgeable in and also manage the business. And so you're doing both at the same time. When should we separate this situation? When do you separate the two?
Yeah, I have a shorthand way of assessing that. That's a great question, by the way, Bernaldo. That's, I think, the one all of us who've owned businesses have struggled with. And the simple answer is, when you're finding that your time is worth, I'll just throw out a number. Let's suppose that your time is worth $150 an hour because you're a consulting engineer, and yet you're finding that you're having to answer the phones and maybe do some basic bookkeeping, which may cost you between $15 and $25 an hour. So for every hour you give up, you're giving up $150, and you're having to take on the job of the person making $15 or $25 an hour. So kind of the simple way to think about it is, at the point that you would only have to work, say, another 2 hours as a consulting engineer in order to pay to have a bookkeeper or a receptionist, it's absolutely worth that, because it's not a good use of your time. Or typically owners are really good at business development and acquiring new clients. That is the highest value use of your time, is to build relationships, to get the new clients, to keep your current clients happy. And so you definitely want to start shifting at the point that you're not able to do the business development or the service delivery that's, your forte.
By the way, Paul, you went to this exercise, you hired a CEO recently, so maybe you can share your experience briefly and when you figured out that you had to do that.
You're on mute,
I
Paul.
could also answer that, yeah, because there's also a same question about your breakthrough. When do you know that you made a breakthrough in your business, right? And I would say this is all interrelates that in a company. When you start, you need to have these three personalities. One is the operator that is producing that. Then you need a manager that manages it. But you also need the entrepreneur that always is looking forward to how you're going to do better the business, or how do you sell it better or move into things. At one point, if you just keep on doing the same thing that you're good at baking, you're not going to survive, right? So then John says, if you need someone to do accounting, because that you need to do better on your baking. And that's what happened to me. I got more and more people asking me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And certainly I started doing that, but I started doing payroll more and more. It's taking more time doing the payroll. And that limited the growth. So that's the moment I said, I need to bring someone in there. And then not only that, we need to, talking about breakthrough, I think for the most part, companies don't really have big breakthroughs. It's a continuous breakthrough. You always have to continuously think of, okay, I've done sales good, but how can I do better? How can I innovate? How can I change this? How could I provide a better service, right? So in business class, they says, if it ain't break, don't fix it. But I think it's the other way around. If it's not broken, break it and see how you could fix it better, because some other people will find a way to produce that better. So in terms of a breakthrough, you always have to have that entrepreneurial spirit where you have to think better. How can I provide this better, quicker and more efficient and better for the clients? So that's the breakthrough. And it's continuous breakthrough. And that will require you thinking maybe you need someone else to bring in to give you fresh ideas. And always, this is also very important as a business owner, to be open, to really listen to everyone, to your competitors, to your suppliers, your clients, to your friends, your peers, to see what they're saying, and to learn what is that breakthrough that can give your company, and when should you bring in more people.
I see a hand raised by Joe. Joe, do you want to say something?
Yes, I have a question. So you guys are business owners, how do you guys handle the aspect of as far as insurance, like health insurance and stuff like that, for you guys individually first, and then how do y'all take it on within all y'all's employees? And two, your retirement accounts, say like a normal company provides a 401k and matches and stuff like that. What do you guys do? Do you guys do the same thing? Do you have alternative things? How does that work for you guys?
Well,
Well,
for,
Go ahead.
gonna go? Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say for me personally, when I first started, I couldn't afford health insurance for myself, never mind, anyone else. But so I guess when you start, typically you're just, one man show, two man show. So when you start, one of the things that we were saying was that make sure at least to have some resources to survive, because health insurance might be a secondary concern, or hopefully you already have it personally, but aren't able to offer it to anyone else. As we grew, this one thing that you have to understand is, like, you might have to have a 5-year plan and plan on, okay, when I get to employee number 5, I'm probably going to have to bring in health insurance, because quality people will really expect it. Same with the 401. I had my business since 2003. We had a simple IRA from year 5, and just last year we went from a simple IRA to a full-blown 401k. I mean, it took this long. And one thing that I will say here that I'm sure my fellow business owners can agree with: insurance is one of the single most expensive thing that I have as a business owner. I mean, it's astronomical and unexpected. So it's one of the things that, yeah, we have to plan out for.
And salaries.
But don't be afraid of it, because if you're in a market and you're competing with people, they have to provide insurance too. So your rates, your service rates or your product rates should include that kind of overhead at some point. So, but yeah, it was a slow. To give you an example, the first year I hired an employee, we had health insurance, but we had no maternity coverage. Well, he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, John, guess what? Amy's pregnant." And my heart sank, and I didn't want to tell him or remind him right away. But about half hour later, I went back and said, you remember, we don't have maternity coverage." Oh my gosh. Well, we resolved that. This is part of the economy of communion, right? How do you resolve this with employees? And we went and negotiated personally with doctors' offices and got a discount by paying everything up front, like a 50% reduction. And we went in and he covered part of it himself. So you work through those things, but you're not going to have the perfect the perfect benefits right from the get-go, likely.
Thank you, guys.
So we'd love to hear more questions, and we'd love for this dialogue to continue. Our hour is just now up, and but please, we'd love to stay in contact with you. We're here to help you, and if you could put in your chat whatever preference of contact you have, we would like to stay in touch, and if this is something you're interested in. And I want to thank everyone who, our guest, for everything they offered us today, and also for all your questions, which was the most important part of our event. We wanted to hear from you. And then, Nick, did you want to address anything else in terms of our accompaniment?
Yes, on behalf of the Economic Communion, if you want to continue the dialogue or have an idea for the business that you want to conduct either individually or in conjunction with the youth center that Mike and Carol Lucher are leading, let them or let us know, and we're happy to consider it and evaluate, the possibility of accompanying you or a group of you, in that journey.
Okay, so that rounds it up for today. And please, again, put your email, your cell number, whatever you like to be contacted with. Go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll be here for a few more, just to finish this up. And we'll be in touch. And we really enjoyed this hour together. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.